Elliot, the voice of the referees. He is Andrew, the voice of the players. I'm also here. Uh, it's Copa America time, so obviously, what better topic to bring up than de-escalation and de-escalation tactics and tips for referees? Elliot, let's get right into it. So a match is going on, you're reffing it. It starts to heat up. What are some of the things you're looking at? What are some of the things you're noticing that kind of can tip you off that, okay, this match is trending in the wrong direction?
There's very often a triggering event that you can look back to, and it's the start of things before they go downhill. And it could be a tackle, be it a foul or a fair challenge, but there's a sense of grievance or unfairness on the part of at least one person afterwards. It could be previous history, and so if as a referee you know the background of these two teams or coaches, that's context to know about, and that can affect the way that the game goes and how you handle it. And then anything can be a trigger. Any sense of grievance can be a trigger. So really you're looking in the aftermath of a decision that you've made, how are the players reacting? And is someone keeping on at it? Are they looking for revenge? You're looking for those little clues.
Andrew, kind of jump in here. As a player, when you feel a match heating up, what are some of the things that you kind of start to notice or you start to feel when a match is starting to kind of tip into that kind of red area?
Yeah. So I guess it kind of depends if I'm if I'm a part of the problem or just noticing it from afar. I think from the player's perspective, something the referees need to keep in mind is that you're putting your body on the line. If you're professional, your career on the line. If you're playing in Gotham, to some extent, your money, your money, your time and money on the line, and you have a real expectation for referees to control these matches. It can be extremely intense and emotional, as silly as it seems for a recreational match or anything above that. And it's hard to kind of keep all of that in check. So if as a player, when you're maybe a part of the problem, you're seeing red, and quite frankly, like anything rational goes out the door. And it's really difficult, and I think that's certainly why the referee plays such an important role in this. Because I can tell you, as a player, we're not gonna help. That's for sure.
So, Elliot, the match has heated up. You're seeing these signs. You know the history. It's all starting to kind of kick off. What do you do as a ref? What are you changing? How are you approaching this?
We've got a range of tools that are at our disposal, and I like the question because it's how are you changing? What are you doing? The tools that we use, when we use them, how we use them, that's part of our judgment and our discretion. We don't use them all at once, but we try and use the right tool for the right moment. So we could do a whole podcast on each of these, but the whistle is an extension of your voice. The way that you can use a whistle to calm things down is if you think you've seen a foul that's just a careless foul, but there's a disproportionate reaction to it, just a little sharp, very short whistle, followed by a comment along the lines of, just a foul, let's get on with it. That can help players see it for what it is rather than through their emotional perspective. If you see a foul that you don't like and you don't want to see again, you can blast on that whistle for a harder, longer blast. And that has the effect of sending the message to everyone there saying, no way, that we're not doing that today. And that can be effective. If you see after a decision has been made, you see what could potentially lead to a mass confrontation and you see guys start to pile in, then you can do repeated blasts of the whistle as well as get yourself on the scene. And that is a sign to everyone to say, I'm here, don't get involved, leave this to me. So the whistle is big. Your voice is such an important tool as well. Players, when they respond positively to a referee, whether it's me or anyone else, one of the top bits of positive feedback I hear from players is they liked it when the ref communicated their decisions. And that provides clarity. Doesn't always provide agreement, but having that clarity just helps players understand and move on. So your voice, you're explaining your decisions as you go along. Your body language, if you're communicating in such a way that your decision is obvious to the people right in front of you, the goalkeepers at either end, the coaches, the players watching, clear signals. If you see a hold, you can do the hold signal. If you see a handball, you do a handball signal. So your body language is another way of effectively communicating to keep the temperature down. If things are still getting heated, then we can use delaying the restart as a way of taking the heat out of the game. That means you've given the free kick, or you're saying hold the throw or hold the goal kick, and you can have a quiet word with the perpetrator or perpetrators and just tell them, if you carry on down this path, it's going to lead to somewhere they don't want to go. You can get captains involved. So there are, and then you've got your cards for when the players are not listening to the advice that you're giving them and they're carrying on. That's the next stop cards. Sometimes a yellow or a red at the right time, for the right reason, for the right person, can have the net effect of just de-escalating things.
So obviously these are great ways to work on de-escalating as things kick off, but obviously it's about trying to control someone else and some other person's emotions, and there's only so much a referee can do. So how do we prevent ourselves from even getting to that point? What are some of the prevention methods a referee can use to keep a match from ever getting near that or ever trending in that direction?
Well, I suppose I've touched on quite a lot of those: the whistle, the voice, the body language. But even before that, let's bring it to the Gotham level. Turn up on time, look like a referee, act like a referee, and you'll, more often than not, you'll be treated like a referee. That's when your game control starts. I don't think it's a coincidence if a referee turns up late, not wearing the referee uniform, not looking like a ref, they haven't got a watch, socks are rolled down, shirts untucked. My bet is more often than not, players are not going to be so respectful towards the decisions that you make. It has a very powerful effect from the very first moment. So your appearance, be on time, and then once the game kicks off, the tools that I mentioned. Now, there's a real powerful analogy that I like to pass on to folks, and I read it in Howard Webb's book, and I think he received this analogy from his referee mentor, Hugh Dallas, a Scottish referee. You treat every game differently. Every game's different, similar to a horse. Now, when you get on a horse for the first time, you don't know what kind of a horse it's going to be. If it's going to be a wild horse that tries to kick you off, if it's going to be a nice docile beast that will just trot along. So when you get on the horse, you don't know. So you hold the reins nice and tight, ready for anything. And then you let the horse show you what they're like. And if it's a nice docile horse, then you can loosen the reins and relax a little bit. If the horse is agitated and they're trying to kick you off, then you can tighten the reins and exert your control. And at any point, you're ready to adjust your grip on the reins. Now, if it's an agitated horse, you don't want to hold it too loosely because you won't have that thing under control and you'll get kicked off. If it's a real nice docile horse and you hold the reins too tight, you can agitate the horse. Now, in a football match, all those little parameters that I was describing before, use of the whistle, foul recognition. If you've got a game that's nice and smooth and you're overly officious and you call fouls that actually the players are accepting and willing to accept, you run the risk of aggravating the players and increasing the temperature, something that you don't want to do. If the opposite is happening and you see players overstepping the mark repeatedly and fouling and shirt holding and talking back, that's where you can tighten the reins of your game by greater use of the whistle, your voice, slowing things down with talking to the captains and so on. And so all those aspects of the tools in our toolbox are ways that we can use to bring the temperature down when it's too high. But as well as having all those tools, you've got to be paying attention. So for a new referee, where your entire brain power is taken up by God, is that a foul or is that not? Sometimes you don't have the headspace to notice all these other things going on. And so it does come with a little bit of experience.
Andrew, bringing it to the Gotham level, Elliot kind of mentioned dressing appropriately when you show up to the field, presenting yourself well. What about and we do most of it is a lot of 7v7 where it's one ref having to make every call. We talk about this. We've talked about this before, but just kind of the movement and where you should place yourself. How important is that in kind of holding that level of like, I'm the ref, I have the authority, and just trust my judgment on things?
It's certainly important. It goes back to what Ellie was saying, where when you act the part, that perception that you kind of pass on through the field to the players is really important, because if they believe that you know what you're doing, then they'll buy into the decisions that you make. If they don't believe you know what you're doing, or they don't believe that you can, then they're not going to buy into those decisions. And that's where things can really kind of snowball from there. And movement is a big part of that. Being in the right position, not only does it help you make the correct call, which is huge, but it also kind of communicates to the players, okay, I care, I'm making the effort to be in the right position. I know what I'm doing because I'm going to the right position. And some of this is all a little subconscious and subliminal, because do they even know what the right position is? A lot of them probably don't, but I think you can kind of pick up on that effort. And players do. I think a lot of our players have picked up that our better officials, they don't sit in the middle of the field for 7-a-side because you get in the way. The better officials kind of pick a side, and they'll move it as we instruct them to move in. And they pick up on those little things, whether they know the exact, protocol that Gotham may provide. They may not know it, but I think they pick up on it. And so that ability to communicate that to the players is huge. So yeah, I think so much of the job of the official can be done by just simply showing up on time, dressed correctly, and putting in some effort. And some of the effort is just taking the time to listen to the referee coordinators who tell you the protocol for movement. And some of it is physically sprinting from one side to the other. So for any new officials out there, I mean, most of the battle can be won without you even having that much experience. It's just showing up on time, looking the part when you're there, putting in the effort, and just being, it's a bit of a fake it till you make it situation. Just being confident, even if, deep down you're not that confident, you need to at least act like you're confident, be very concise and strong with your language. And these things can make a huge difference. If I could give the player perspective a little bit more, and address Elliot, and not necessarily Elliot specifically, but just referees in general, so that because it's important, I think, for the officials to understand the player side. What players are expecting are consistency, and some of that is a bit of looking through a bit of a biased lens. But if you can't maintain consistency, that is going to create a lot of these heated matches. Even if the teams aren't really going at it, if they think that you're not being consistent, things can snowball very quickly. And going back to Elliot's points about the whistle and the communication, that is so huge. When a referee is using their whistle correctly and they're communicating, it's what I think it really frustrates players, and it builds up quickly, is when they have no idea what's being called. So if you're an official who just likes to keep it to themselves, which sometimes I have a natural tendency to do, and I have to really be very conscious about it. Like, okay, I really need to communicate these calls. I need to make my presence felt, because if I don't, the players, even if you're calling a perfect game, let's say you have recognized every foul by the book, you're doing everything that you'd be asked to. If you're not communicating correctly, these players who don't take the time to know laws are still going to get confused and get upset. And so the communication aspect is crucial.
If you see something on TV in a match you're watching, or if you're in a match and you see something, experience something, send it into us at the Whistle Stop. We will chop it up and litigate it. Till next time.